Joe Rogan. Tonight, the call to ban him from Spotify is getting louder. The massively popular podcaster is apologizing, kind of, and Spotify is pledging to update the way it handles COVID information, as more famed artists of yesteryear say they want their music taken down. First, it was Neil Young who pulled his music from the platform, saying the Joe Rogan Experience, as the podcast is named, is hosted by Spotify and it spreads COVID misinformation. Young's now been joined by others, among them another giant among baby boomers, Joni Mitchell, the singer-songwriter behind the 1969 hit Both Sides Now and Free Man in Paris. And Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band guitarist, or one of them, Nils Lofgren. Today, Rogan is responding. On Instagram, he's responding on Instagram to all of this today, saying he simply tries to have interesting conversations and corrects the record when needed.
I am going to do my best in the future to balance things out. I'm going to do my best. But my point of doing this is always just to create interesting conversations and ones that I hope people enjoy. So if I pissed you off, I'm sorry. And if you enjoy the podcast, thank you.
This is all starting after Rogan featured vaccine scientist Robert Malone on the show. He said many Americans during the pandemic have fallen into something he calls mass formation psychosis, that's not known in psychology at this point, and can be led anywhere, even by people who lie. Well, two guys who are certainly not under any kind of hypnosis and would never lie to us, Mo Kelly, host of The Mo Kelly Show, and Tony Katz, host of the Eat, Drink, Smoke podcast and radio host on WBIC in Indianapolis. Tony, let's start with you. Let's be honest here. He seemed to explain himself, but not quite apologize. What's your take?
He doesn't have to apologize. Look, the work I do on WIBC in Indianapolis, I host 2 shows a day. I'm having conversations for 6 hours a day. It is possible to get something wrong. The argument being made here is one of Joe Rogan purposefully pushing what they call misinformation. But if you listen to the start of his video, he's very clear. 6 months ago, you could not have said masks don't do anything. And today you can. Even though masks don't stop COVID, certainly cloth masks don't stop COVID. You'd have to be wearing an N95 for hours at a time, which normal people simply cannot do. When I say Joe Rogan has nothing to apologize for, he has nothing to apologize for. He's introduced great conversations into America, and the more conversations, the better.
Okay, Mo, let's hear a little more from Rogan. Here he says, misinformation one day, as Tony was saying, can be truth the next.
Many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact.
Okay, do some people just not like what's being said? Or isn't it his job to be provocative, to spark a discussion?
His job is to be interesting. I don't know about being provocative. I actually agree with Tony in this. He has nothing to apologize for, but I am a capitalist. I side with capitalism. So if Spotify says, hey, you are injuring our business model, you're taking down our stock price, as he did, then I'm okay with Spotify saying we're gonna need to put up some sort of a warning or some sort of monitoring of your content. So I'm gonna side with the podcast provider here, because Joe Rogan is an employee to the extent of they bought his podcast for $100 million. And if he's harming their bottom line, then I say Spotify is okay with doing whatever they need to do to protect their business interests.
Okay, so Tony, Rogan says he'll try to get different opinions, put them back to back on his show to structure it that way in a more kind of traditional way, but is that good enough? Joe Rogan is huge.
No, not for the haters, Mike, right? Not for the people who want to destroy, not for those folk at all. It will never be good enough. They don't want anybody saying anything different than what they want said out there in the public sphere. This is some of the sickest stuff. This is as cruel and demented and anti-American as we have possibly ever seen. It would not matter if Joe Rogan had Dr. Fauci on and literally rubbed the man's feet while screaming, "You're a genius." Yeah. It wouldn't satisfy these people. They want him gone, and I don't think Joe should go anywhere. Unless he wants to.
All right, it is a capitalist society. This is a private industry. Spotify's trying to make money. They're worried about losing on one end and gaining on the other end. It's always a balancing act. Do Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and even Nils Lofgren have the right to take their money or demand that take their money, take their songs and their work and all of their artistry off of that platform, Tony?
Oh, if you're asking me, they can do anything they want. It's their music. But they should understand they are bullying and threatening and intimidating and engaging, possibly, if you can call it the act of extortion, against Spotify. And Spotify could say yes or no and deal with it however they want to. And I believe that if Spotify were to get rid of Joe Rogan, people will then act in kind as well.
Okay, Mo, you're in the music industry. Some of these artists have already made their money. I mean, they were popular 40, 50, 55 years ago. They've clearly faded from the mainstream a little bit now. So for some of them, it doesn't matter if they take a hit on Spotify. And to guys like me, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell are like they're immortals. But could they be looking to make one last hurrah, one last set of headlines, or is that just too cynical?
I don't think so. I think that would be a little cynical because Spotify and streaming more broadly does not bring in a lot of money for these artists. Spotify does not create any real intellectual property. So I'm going to side again with capitalism, and in this case, the musicians saying that, hey, if I don't want to be represented by Spotify in this way, I'll take my marbles and go home. In history, we talk about America. History is rife with examples of, you want to call it bullying, Tony, I would just call it a coercion or even pressure to have America bend a certain way. And America will find its own natural equilibrium. We've seen this in capitalism for many, many years.
Well, we shouldn't think that coercion's a good thing.
Okay. So I've watched you guys talking with Joe. It's been a pleasure to talk to you in person tonight. Mo Kelly, host of The Mo Kelly Show, and Tony Katz, host of Eat, Drink, Smoke. Thank you both.
Pleasure.